Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Wizards at Work. That's Julie.
And that's Dylan.
And this is episode 2 of Wizards at Work, and we are clocking in. Today, we have some Magic key things to talk about because we want to talk about Sorcerers and why they suck.
We're going to play Sorcerers in an upcoming campaign. We're going to play Twin Sorcerers, so we're allowed to be like this. Yeah, we have a pass. But,
yeah, we're allowed to complain about them.
I'm also playing a Sorcerer in another campaign coming up. The homebrew class that you made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have a few particular issues with the way that Sorcerers sort of function, like gameplay wise, but also the way they work flavor wise doesn't really like mesh well together with how they're set up. So I wanna start by mentioning how they're a charisma caster, because this is the main issue. It is the main major issue.
Okay.
It's like, girl, why are you a charisma caster?
I have so much issues with this. Okay, lore-wise, it doesn't make sense, because why do you have the same hit dice as someone that reads a book to get their magic? You know? Bards get the magic from their loot, and yet they're a D8. It makes more sense if they're a D8. I'm not telling you to, like, make them a D10 or a D12. Just a D8, a little bump. Because a Constitution caster makes more sense if your magic's inherent.
Yeah, exactly. It's your being. These characters, Sorcerers, are supposed to be someone who is born magical, or an event happened to them that changed the way they are down to every fiber of their being. It changed them. So their constitution is magical. So why would they be a charisma caster? Also, lore-wise, a lot of the time, Sorcerers are outcast. So why would they have high charisma? It doesn't make sense.
And another thing I think would be good to at least have is a high, HP spellcaster. We kind of get that with Paladin, kind of get that.
Yeah.
But something that's full on just spellcaster that can be a bit more beefy than a wizard.
Yeah, because they should be more beefy than a wizard, and also it's that would create a new archetype, because a Paladin, they are a spellcaster, they're a third caster, but having a full caster that would be Constitution based with a 1d8 is really cool, considering also it would sort of it would kind of counterbalance their very lackluster spell list. And now their spell list is
here we go.
It's kind of, I don't want to say boring, because it's not boring, but it's lackluster compared to other casters.
Definitely.
Very lackluster.
Especially Divine Sorcerer, because you get access to the cleric spell list, which is cool. But the spells they get in Elite, if you want to be a healer, just go cleric.
Just be a cleric.
Why jump through all these hoops? Especially life domain cleric. You get to do full healing at level 17 instead of having to in life, not life domain sorcerer. That's not a thing.
No.
Divine sorcerer. Thank you, Divine sorcerer. You can re-roll the amount of healing you do, which just be life sorcerer, so you can just do full healing at level 17.
You mean life cleric?
Life cleric. I'm so sorry. Life cleric.
Yeah, it's kind of if you want to be a healer sorcerer, you should just be a cleric. But then again, there's also some cleric spells on the cleric spell list that are really interesting for the sorcerer. We'll go into the divine soul sorcerers spell list later, but the spell list for sorcerers is like you become the designated full blaster is what I want to call them.
Okay.
They're not a full caster, they're a full blaster, and it's like that's cool, that can be fun, except you can only blast something so many times before you run into a monster that makes you useless. Like,
yeah,
they have control spells. I'm pretty sure they get hypnotic pattern and stuff like that. But it's like, why they don't nearly have as many options as something like a wizard. Like every caster is going to get compared to a wizard. If there's a new caster, they're going to get compared to the wizard because the wizard is really the best. They have so many options.
That's a bit biased, though. I mean, we are
not
wizards
really. I
at
mean,
work.
we are wizards and we are working, but they have the best spell lists. And I do think that wizards, they have better spell lists and more utility. And I do think that they shouldn't have access to certain spells. Like, I don't think a wizard should be able to get psionic spells. They're not born psionic, they would study. So, like, why can they get psionic spells? It doesn't really make sense.
Depends on the book.
They're missing... Yeah. I think sorcerers are also... They're missing a lot of spells that they should have thematically. Yeah. Like, why don't sorcerers get Call Lightning? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. They should get Call Lightning. And they can get outclassed very easily by a different caster who just takes the same feats.
Yeah, the meta magic feat kind of makes sorcerers just kind of there.
Yeah. They get this unique thing of meta magic, except it's not unique
Everyone
anymore because meta magic adept is a feat. Yeah, because everyone can have it, you know. But not... They get the most... Use out of it, yeah. Like, obviously, sorcerers, yeah, they get the most use out of it because they get more sorcery points as they level up. But, like, a wizard with subtle spell, that can be really, really good. Or a wizard with empowered spell, or a warlock with empowered spell, that can get strong. Like, that can get very strong. And they kind of end up doing more things than a sorcerer and do better than a sorcerer would do at, like, blasting. It's kind of embarrassing. And then they just have, like, worse spell lists. Sorcerers. Like, they just have worse spell lists than the other casters.
But I think sorcerers lore-wise is such a cool concept, like just being inherently magical.
Oh yeah.
And also, one of my favorite sorcerer subclass is the, let me find it here in my notes, lunar magic subclass.
Yeah, lunar magic is really cool.
I love the lunar magic subclass. The idea of, like, you picking the moon phase you're in, depending on, depicts your magic you have for the day. And also, like, at 6th level, you can just use sorcerer points to, like, change your phase mid-battle. Yeah. It's so cool.
It's really cool. I have a character that you helped me make that uses it. The Hexblood Lunar Sorcerer. And she is so cool. Her theme is so cool. The spells, the fact that they get a different spell list depending on which phase they're in, it's very cool. That being said, like, the subclasses for sorcerers, they're the ones that came before Tasha's are just so outclassed by the Tasha's subclasses.
You've always been a bigger fan of Tasha's, though.
I love Tasha because Tasha does everything correct. Tasha gave sorcerers love. Unfortunately, the previous subclasses got left in the ran over and left in the dust by the Tasha subclasses, because a sorcerer that gets an expanded spell list, because that's what Tasha did. They get an expanded spell list. They are just better than the other sorcerers because they have about 10 more spells and, like, a cantrip maybe than a normal sorcerer. Plus their features are just really, really good. The Aberrant Mind and the Clockwork Soul sorcerers from Tasha's.
I have an issue with one little thing about... I'm playing a bard in our upcoming campaign. We're in a lot of campaigns, but we never play.
Yeah. No.
My starting feat is Aberrant Mind Dragon, I believe. Aberrant Dragon Mark. There we go. And I get access to sorcery abilities, but it's a con cast.
Really? I didn't know that.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Con cast, but not an actual sorcerer.
Yeah. Why is the Aberrant Dragon Mark
With sorcerer spells, you get access to the sorcerers.
Not
sorcerers spell list, but not the sorcerer. One D&D, the one thing I really want to see is that change to the sorcerers, just to make them concasters, because they'll be different. Because we have a lot of charisma casters as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a very diluted pool of casting.
Strength caster would be funny.
Yeah.
That's just that wild magic barbarian though.
That's yeah, wild magic barbarian. I want to talk about why the other classes for sorcerers just kind of like usually miss the mark compared to like the Tasha's subclasses, and I also think the Divine Soul is up there with the Tasha's subclasses. It is very good. It's obviously, if you want to be a healer, you just go cleric, but it gives the sorcerer a lot of other options that aren't necessarily healing. So start off with the Draconic Bloodline. It's some of these subclasses are like functionally terrible. Other than the Aberrant Mind, Clockwork Soul, and Divine Soul, they're just functionally not good. Draconic Bloodline, Flight, they get Flight, but it's cool, but it's not cool at 14th level.
Spell. Flight.
You can get you can attain Flight via spells earlier. So once again, any other caster will be able to fly before you. Also, you as a sorcerer can just fly before that. So what's the point? You get to pick your dragon type, and your dragon type corresponds with the damage type. And the most common type of damage that sorcerers get in their spells is fire. No other type of damage is nearly as common. And so anything other than the fire element dragons are not worth your time. Like, there aren't enough other spell damage types in the sorcerer spell list for anything other than fire to be worth it. And the formula for Draconic Resilience, which is the unarmored defense of Draconic Bloodline sorcerers, guess what the formula is?
I feel like I'm about to find out.
You're gonna find out. It's charisma and dex.
Okay, what?
Why isn't it con? Your ancestors are dragons. It should be charisma and con, if anything.
Saving throws for sorcerers, con and charisma
right?
anyways?
Am I crazy? Yeah. And the saving throw is con. Exactly. They get constitution and charisma saving throws. Why isn't the, like, unarmored defense for bloodline, Draconic Bloodline, charisma and con? It doesn't make sense. And the 18th level feature, you basically turn to like a dragon and fear everyone around you. Except it has this like a 60-foot radius, and it also affects allies, and it permanently fears them.
What use is that?
Exactly! What do? Kinetic jaunt in the middle of a bunch of enemies as a sorcerer?
Hey, party, I'm just gonna let you know, I'm gonna turn into a dragon real quick. You might want to go 65 feet away.
Terrible. I'm about to scare the shit out of you, and you also won't be able to help me. It doesn't. It's... not good. Storm Sorcery. It should be so cool. Storm Sorcery should be the coolest thing ever, but it's not. The first level feature, you get languages. Like, okay, I suppose, but like also give something else, you know? The other first level feat, when you cast a certain spell, I think it's lightning or thunder damage or something. Or no, it's something like when you cast something from your sorcerer spell list or something like that. You get to choose to move 10 feet in any direction without provoking opportunity attacks, as like a reaction to casting your spell, basically. I don't think it actually costs a reaction, but it's like, you get to do it. It's a bonus action. You move 10 feet without provoking opportunity attacks, except then you can just be followed. It's only 10 feet. If you move, cast, and then use this bonus action ability to move away from a target, they can just walk up to you. I don't really see, like, I get it. It can be functional, but it's kind of like a bit lackluster, kind of boring. You get damage resistance, but it's only triggered via lightning or thunder damage, and it isn't really reliable because sorcerers only get a few lightning and thunder damage spells. The list is very limiting.
I feel like for that, it's more, you don't really have a lot of lightning and thunder damage spells, yeah, but if it's a very lightning and thunder damage designed character, you can probably flavor some things as that, like if the DM allows it. So I think that's more like, of course there's not like gonna have lightning damage, but you can flavor throwing something and causing sparks.
Yeah. I mean, it can be cool, but it's kind of like, it forces you to take, there's so little of these damage types in Sorcerer spell list that it kind of forces you to take anything you can get. So you kind of just take all of them. I just wish there were more options for them. Like, wizards get a lot of spells they shouldn't, and sorcerers don't get a lot of spells that they should. And storm sorcerers can fly, except it's at 18th level.
Yeah, okay.
Like, okay, come on. Like, we're bored. And you can share the flying,
Oh, that's fun.
which is cool. So they can fly first. They have 60-foot flying speed when they activate this, and they reduce theirs in half, so they get 30, in order to share their 30 feet of flying speed with other people.
But you can just do that by upcasting the, spell flight.
Exactly. Exactly. You can do it already with spells. This is the thing with some of these subclasses. You can do the things that they give you already with spells. So really any caster can do it. Wild magic. I could talk like forever about wild magic.
I am gonna just say some things that you are a sorcerer. You are powerful. You have magic innately in you. When you cast something, an unknown effect can happen. Why are you at the same level of a wizard who just read a textbook? Wild magic sorcerers should be concasters. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, wild magic is like, even the flavor of wild magic is like, yeah, you have so much magic in you that you just can't control it. It literally forces itself out of you when you cast spells. Okay, so you're made of magic. Why aren't you a concaster? Doesn't make sense.
You're made of magic. Why are you the same as a person that went to school?
Why are you the same as some guy that plays an instrument?
No, they're not the same.
Doesn't make sense.
The instrument's higher.
Yeah. The bard's better, so.
The bard can play the flute really well. I'm sorry. Really well.
Really well, yeah. Wild Magic Surge. Wild Magic Sorcerers. Wild Magic Surge is very fun. It's super cool. I love Wild Magic. But Wild Magic Sorcery is like a bit polarizing in like the D&D community, I think. Because some people love the randomness, they love the chance, and some people really hate it. And they will never play Wild Magic Sorcery.
In early levels, it's scary.
Yeah. It can TPK you. It can TPK you if you get an awful roll, but it's so unlikely. It can happen, but it's unlikely. And so for the people that really don't like it, they don't play a Wild Magic Sorcerer, and they rate it terribly because they hate the idea of being able to TPK your party at any moment. But then the people who do really like it, they don't even get to activate it enough. Because the way Wild Magic Surge works is when you cast your Sorcerer spell, you then need to roll another dice, and then only if you get a 1 can you roll on the Wild Magic table. So they limit the amount of times you can even use it.
Sometimes the effects aren't even bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually split 50-50. There's part of it is good, part of it is bad, and in the middle there's a kind of neutral, like it doesn't negatively or positively affect anyone more than anyone else. There's a neutral middle, and then there's a good and negative, like a good and bad end as well. And as you get to the further extremes of the wild magic table, the effects get stronger, either negatively or
played a wild magic sorcerer, nor have I been in a campaign with someone who played a wild magic sorcerer. But even I think mechanics wise, it's really cool, and also narratively amazing, and can add so much lore into the story. Sorcerers themselves are just really cool in general. It's just they need that extra buff. They're really good, but they suck.
It's just they're awful. But they suck. No, yeah. And a lot of DMs, they end up house ruling. They end up house ruling that Wild Magic Sorcerers can roll on the Wild Magic table every single time they cast a sorcerer spell, regardless of whether or not they hit the 1. They don't need to roll it, they can just do it, which I think is actually a lot better, because it Otherwise, you're barely using the main feature of your class, and you're getting nothing out of your class.
I
most
think
of the
that's
time.
a bit much. I think maybe if you roll a 10 or below.
You might think it's a bit much, but in actual, like, watching someone use it and using that house rule, it just works. Like, it just works. And it leads to so many interesting moments. Once again, the dungeon dudes, they talked about it before, where they said that they were in a campaign and they were running away from this monster, and the sorcerer turned around and cast a spell at it to, like, slow it down, and then had to roll on the wild magic table, because they were using the, like, you can just roll on it whenever you cast a spell. He doesn't need to roll a 1. So he rolled on the wild magic table and got turned into a potted plant. And so then they had to pick him up and run through the dungeon with their potted plant friend.
That's always fun.
And it's just really funny.
It just can bring so much into the campaign, the narrative, and just mechanics-wise.
Yes. And for someone that likes that and wants that increased volatility of the wild magic sorcerer, allowing them to roll on it whenever they cast a spell is just, it's only really going to have good things happen because they want it. That's how they want to play the game. And you should facilitate your players playing the game how they want, really. So yeah, I think it's good. But that's all house rules. Not everyone does that. So if people don't know about house ruling stuff, the wild magic sorcerer is very, like, lackluster. And I mean, the later features of it, they're good. The rest of the features empower wild magic rolls, and the later features, they improve the wild magic rolls and the blasting of the sorcerer, because that's what the wild magic sorcerer is really about. It's like a really blasty sorcerer, and they get increased damage and better wild magic rolls later. So I think that's good. Following that up with shadow magic. Shadow magic's pretty just short and sweet because it's not that bad. It's really good in a setting where your party members have dark vision, because you can cast magical darkness that you can see through using sorcery points. As long as your allies also have dark vision, I think that's good.
All human campaign.
All human campaign. You can prevent yourself from dying once per long rest. Pretty cool. You have your Hound of Omen, which is like your main gimmick. The only thing about the Hound of Omen, like, it like targets people that you target, and it does like bonus damage and stuff. I just wish that it could participate in flanking.
Ooh.
It can't participate in flanking. And if it could do that, this would actually be sick as hell. It is pretty sick, but just being able to flank, which I think makes sense, because if a familiar can help flank, then why can't the Hound of Omen help flank, you know?
You're right. I like that.
Right? I think that's really the best way to improve the subclass. And I mean, 18th level feature is expensive on sorcery points, but it's like a pretty big self buff thing, so it's reasonable. But yeah, it's 6 sorcery points, pretty expensive. So Divine Soul, Aberrant Mind, and Clockwork Soul all have the same thing. TLDR, they have expanded spell lists. They're amazing. Like,
of course, because it's Tasha's.
It's Tasha's, but also Divine Soul is not Tasha's. Divine Soul is really good. You get the battlefield control capabilities that sorcerers miss out on, that clerics get. So, you know, Julie, you know about the clerics.
I know. I dabbled in clerics here and there. It's not like I have been playing a cleric for 5 years.
I mean, even if it said you get access to spiritual weapon and spirit guardians, that would just be amazing in itself. Like, those 2 battlefield control spells, really good. They are very good. And also the potential of twin spell with a lot of cleric spells, really good. Twin healing word.
But to counter that,
think about it.
You can just take a meta magic feat.
That's true, but sorcerers will be able to do it more, admittedly. And they can do probably like better with stuff like Guiding Bolt. They are probably better at using Guiding Bolt than a cleric is. At least, you know, as a blaster. Twin spell Guiding Bolt probably works better with a sorcerer than it does with a meta magic adept cleric, I would think. But yeah, I mean, Clockwork Soul features are amazing. They get to modify advantage and disadvantage. They're great. Aberrant Mind, I mean, like, I could talk forever about how cool Aberrant Mind is. It's like aliens.
Yeah.
You get a bunch of resistances to like psychic damage and frightened and charmed, and it's just
cool brain stuff, man.
It's just so exactly. And you get transmutation capabilities for yourself. So like you can see invisible creatures, you gain a flying speed, you can gain a swimming speed, and you can become pliable like a slime to move through spaces.
Like your swimming speed, I remember reading yesterday, it was like you actually get gills and stuff too. Yeah, that's cool. Because
they're like based off of aliens and extraterrestrial stuff, so you can change your body composition and stuff. It's cool. It's very epic. And the other subclasses, maybe almost Shadow Magic is almost as cool. It just needs an expanded spell list.
If you're an Aberrant Soul, was it Aberrant Mind? Aberrant Mind. Sorcerer, and you're an ooze race, and you use the slime feature. Are you extra gooey?
You turn to water.
You just liquefy.
Yeah, actually liquefied. That would be cool, actually. Imagine an ooze Aberrant Mind sorcerer that turns himself
I really love the
to
ooze
that.
race.
Except since they're already ooze, you reason that they turn into like an actual like liquid like water, and so they can move through porous substances like cloth. They can move.
They just go into a cheesecloth.
Yeah, they can like move through a cheesecloth.
I love the ooze
Or they can
race.
go through a strainer. They can go right through a strainer. So cool. Why would your ooze character be inside of a strainer? We don't need to talk about it, but it's cool.
Gort can be anywhere.
Gort can be anywhere. Y'all don't know Gort. Y'all know nothing about Gort.
Gort's my ooze.
Okay. Moving into the spells section. We're gonna talk about our favorite spells. We have some cantrips, some utility, our personal favorites, stuff like that. Julie, take it away.
Well, as the cleric for 5 years, I'm very fond of Spirit Guardians and Spiritual Weapon, which are very different spells.
Yes.
One does force damage, and one does radiant or necrotic damage. But it's just very consistent damage. Like, Spirit Guardians, you can aid allies, and depending on like your alignment, it's necrotic damage or necrotic or
radiant.
Thank you. Necrotic or radiant. I'm a cleric. I should know this.
Yeah, come on, pick it up.
Listen, I don't know everything. I just show up sometimes and cast spells. Necrotic and radiant damage after like a failed save, and even if they fail to save, half damage, which is still really good. And also you can decide what your spiritual guardians look like, and as well as your spiritual weapon. And like my character, he's an evil cleric. Not really a healer, honestly.
Kind of
mean, kind of not nice. His spiritual guardians don't really look like spiritual guardians. It actually looks like a plume of like black smoke around him. And it's just necrotic damage. My spiritual weapon, you can make your spiritual weapon anything. Dylan, quick question. If you had a spiritual weapon, you, Dylan, what would your spiritual weapon be?
Oh, God. That is such a good question. You have no idea. Oh, my God. Probably a scythe.
Cringe. Anyways, my spiritual weapon is a scythe.
Scythe is just like that. A scythe is the coolest weapon ever. Having like a big scythe.
Oh, definitely.
A character that's like medium size with a huge scythe is the coolest
Any
thing
small
ever.
character with a big weapon is always just top tier design.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally my D&D character's spiritual weapon is a scythe. And also he has a scythe, so it's just a replica of his other scythe he uses. I have to be more creative, but it's just fun. It's just, you can flavor as whatever, like, maybe my spiritual weapon would probably be
Your
my tope.
bag. Yeah.
I don't go anywhere without it, and
You just
you
whack people. Just whack
Force
people with
damage.
it.
Bonus action, great. What about you, Dylan?
Well, for me, if we're talking like personal preference, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, personal preference.
Okay, because I never leave home without 2 spells, and you definitely know one
Oh,
of
I
them.
hate one of them already.
Because I will never not use this spell.
Every turn.
It is the best spell in the
I
game.
know.
It is the best spell in the game. There's no reason to not use it every turn. It is Silvery Barbs.
Here we go.
Silvery Barbs is the best spell in the whole game. Enchantment is the best spell school in the game. That is a fact. It is so good. Silvery Barbs. Oh my god. Like, it's the best spell. It changes the outcome of all D20 challenges. All of them. Even, like, a death save. You can give it, like, advantage afterwards. So, you can, so when, like, so let's say an enemy attacks your ally. Also, it's a reaction spell, which there are not a lot of. 2 reaction spells I can think of. Silvery Barbs, Featherfall. So good. Both of them, amazing.
I believe if you have...
I would like more reaction spells.
I believe if you have Warcaster, though, correct me if I'm wrong, you can react as...
opportunity attack.
You can react with a spell.
Yeah. I think it's react with a cantrip? I don't know. It's something like that.
I haven't looked at it in a while.
But yeah. But I'm talking a spell that's action cost is 1 reaction. And Silvery Barbs is so good. You can, if they succeed on an attack roll against an ally, you make them re-roll it, they'll fail it. Then, if they succeed on a saving throw, you make them fail it. If they succeed on a skill check, you make them fail it. And then after they either succeed or fail it, regardless, you get to give an ally, or like anyone, really, even yourself, you can give them advantage on the next attack roll, ability check, or save throw that they make. That is so good. That is so good. You make someone fail while increasing someone else's chance to succeed. That's so good. And then secondly, you probably weren't going to see this coming from me, Julie.
Oh, no.
But, it's knock.
Oh.
I will not leave the house without knock.
Really?
Yes. Opening containers that are locked by any means. Does anyone understand the implications of how useful that is? Like...
No door is safe?
If anything is... Exactly. Nothing that is closed is actually closed. If something... It's in the description. It says, if something is barred shut with steel, and you use the knock spell, it simply becomes unbarred. Like, hello? Any non-magical lock, or a magical means of locking something, like arcane lock, become dispelled, at least temporarily. For, like, in the case of arcane lock, 10 minutes. That is so good. And it's not a high-level spell slot, so you're not expending very much resources for it. And people need to start using this more creatively. Think about how many things could technically be considered a container if they're containing something. Or if they are simply locked.
Okay.
And you could technically open it with knock. Only it has a really funny downside that it makes a really loud noise 300 feet away. It's really hilarious. So you go...
You knock on someone's door.
And it just sounds like a bunch of gunshots.
Horrible.
Hilarious.
Horrible.
Hilarious. But it is actually so useful. Yeah. Permanently unlocks any mechanical locks, and magical locks are dismissed for 10 minutes. Amazing. So those are my personal favorites that I will not leave without. Utility. Now, I did create honorable mentions for both cantrips and utility. But for utility, Pass Without Trace.
Yeah, no,
Without
I love Pass Without Trace.
Pass Without Trace is a team buff that lasts for like an hour, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's an hour. And it basically makes it impossible for someone to completely fail a stealth check.
You get a plus 10 to your roll. It's
10.
Amazing.
It's so good. Imagine, like a rogue could pass a DC
amazing.
40 stealth check easily. Like, absurd. That's insane. And then I have Tiny Hut and or Mordekainen's Private Sanctum.
Both really good mentions.
Because Mordekainen's Private Sanctum is basically just a higher level version of Tiny Hut. And since it's like 2 spell slots higher, it has like better functionality.
Yeah.
And like more perks and stuff. But even just Tiny Hut is basically impenetrable. And provides a sanctuary for your... Imagine the sanctuary spell, but good.
As a cleric, that hurts, but thank you.
Yeah.
Tiny Hut is so good for even like lower level parties, and it's just of course, like it's a dome. It's not really. So underneath, if something was digging under the ground, but that's likelihood of that happening is,
Yeah. It's not very high, the likelihood. And also, Mordekainen's private sanctum is the same thing, but a higher level, and nothing can get in.
But early level parties, that's really good. It can blend into the area, and it's...
Yep, and even Tiny Hut, nothing can go through a different dimension.
I forgot.
It can't enter from a different plane. Cool. Yeah, and nothing can go in or out of it unless you let it. So good. It's so good for, like, really bunkering down. Super good. I have honorable mentions for utility are Light, Protection from Good and Evil, Featherfall, Detect Magic, Dispel Magic, and Arcane Eye are all my honorable mentions.
I love when we said maybe 1 to 2, because we talked about spells for a while. You went 1 or 2, and also 7 honorable mentions.
Well, yeah, they're all amazing. They're all amazing utility spells. They're all amazing. What can I say? They're phenomenal.
Okay.
But I think Tiny Hunt and Pass Without a Trace are so useful in so many situations. But yeah, your turn.
I am a big fan of Bless and Bane.
Cleric players you like.
Let me play a different class once. Every time we talk about...
you would still find a way to do it.
I'll still find a way. You're right. So, being able to give your allies,
Austin and Ally.
Being able to give Austin and Ally specifically, plus the D4 during combat, it's just guidance. The downfall is you can't do both, except if you have a very specific feat, which isn't really a good feat, because they're concentration-based spells. Yeah. And I believe I'm the only one that has access to, in our current main party, with Bless and Bane and Spirit Guardians and all that. But I'm able to, because I have a player character NPC that I control in battle and the DM controls outside of battle. I'm able to cast spells through that player character NPC. So I have I have normally Bless up with that character, Spirit Guardians with my main character, and then Spiritual Weapon. It's a good combo. And sometimes if I don't want to do Spirit Guardians, I can do Bane, which is a minus D4 to enemies.
Kane is such a good character.
He's kind of mid.
Kane is such an amazing character because you were allowed to take Prejudice. Yeah. Kane is phenomenal because of Prejudice. Okay,
but also I'm Prejudice as well, so I mean, it's a bit of me.
Prejudice? The fact that you were allowed to have Prejudice.
Your DM's really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, DM.
He is epic.
Great DM.
Yeah.
Boss is very hard.
Yeah, very difficult. I mean, that being said, we have been saved before by the Bless that you had Prejudice concentrating on.
And because...
We've been saved by it before.
And a lot of things rules can be very different with just even a +1. If you even rolled the minimum of a 1 on a Bless or a Bane, that can make a world of difference from hitting a target or a save or whatever. It's just good.
And because it applies to the different types of D20 challenges, it's not just only to attack rolls. It's to anything.
It's just a continuous guidance throughout battle.
Yeah.
I don't use Bane enough, though. I should probably start using Bane more.
Also, wait, I just thought about something. I'm gonna jump all the way back to Silvery Barbs. Can Silvery Barbs, let's say you have an enemy that does a death save, can you make them re-roll their death save?
I don't know.
If they succeed. You can.
But, well, that depends, because most enemies, the DMs just say, you killed it. Type deal. The enemies don't really do death saves.
But if they do, let's say an enemy did death save, Silvery Barbs gets even better. Anyways, I'm gonna stop my Silvery Barbs posting.
You're the reason I did not pick Silvery Barbs for my bard.
Well, yeah, it's kind of the best spell in the game, so
I'm
you should. But whatever. I know you won't.
Cantrips.
Do you have a...
Oh, what were you gonna say?
Cantrips. Okay. I was gonna say, do you have a second one, or was it Pass Without Trace?
Mine was Bless and Bane. I talked about both.
Oh, Bless and Bane.
They're not just one spell.
I thought they were in one category.
They're just one spell.
No, I know. I thought you put them together, though.
Bless and Bane. They're two different, but they're very similar. They're like siblings.
Okay. Sure. Cantrips. You want to take it away with cantrips?
I think we're gonna have the same cantrips.
Are you sure?
I don't know, actually.
I flip-flop so much between a few cantrips, but then I remembered that this one cantrip exists, and I'm like, I need to take it. I need to, every time. But go ahead. What are yours?
Toll the Dead.
I almost took Toll the Dead. It was the one I was flip-flopping between.
Oh,
yeah.
really? I'm surprised you didn't take Toll the Dead.
It is so
It is
good.
really good.
We'll talk about it later, okay?
And, Eldritch Blast
Mhm.
is so good.
Yeah, that was the other one I was flip-flopping
Wow,
between.
you should have done both so we could have been twins.
No, because then we wouldn't be talking as much because neither of mine are the same as yours.
Okay.
They're both, but Toll the Dead and Eldritch Blast are both in my honorable mentions, so W.
Yeah, okay. But, like, Warlocks.
Talk
Warlocks
about 'em.
are meh, but Eldritch Blast is great. 1 point for Warlocks is
Exactly.
Eldritch Blast.
The fact that Warlocks whole thing is based around Eldritch Blast makes them good.
It's really good. It's just, I think it's...
The fact that they buff Eldritch Blast, which is already such an amazing spell, all of their stuff buffs it, insane. It's absurd.
Eldritch Blast... So imagine you're a sorcerer, and you have meta magic, and you Eldritch Blast.
Oof. Yeah.
And Toll the Dead.
Yeah. Also, wait, hold on, pause. That's also why Spell Sniper is one of the best feats in the game. Because you pick Spell Sniper, you can have any caster use Eldritch Blast.
You say Spell Sniper's the best feat, but literally actors right there.
Shut up. You're like, what do you mean Chef exists?
What do you mean? I forgot every other feat.
No. Yeah, no, they don't exist because Spell Sniper is amazing. Like, anyone taking Eldritch Blast, insane. Anyways, yeah. Your second one? What was it?
Toll the Dead. Great. Lovely.
Oh, yeah.
If the enemy aura has damage, a D12 was it? A D12.
Yeah, it goes from a D8 to a D12 if they've taken damage already.
It's great. And higher the level you are. It's just, like Eldritch Blast. It levels up with you. It's just those two.
Yeah, it does this. It does effectively the same damage as Eldritch
those
Blast.
two are really good.
Yeah.
Normally, because I'm doing concentration spells, I can't really use many other spells because a lot of my spells are concentration based. Just so sitting it near like the center of the battle, being able to be with my spirit guardians, hitting with my bonus action, my spiritual weapon, and a Toll the Dead. That my turn's done.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And it has a wisdom save, which is not a good stat for most monsters. They often fail it, which is something a lot of people don't take into account when they take their spells, is the type of saves they have to do. You do not really want spells that force people to make dex saves.
A lot of people have strong decks, yeah.
Yeah, they have strong decks. But the two best saves are really wisdom and intelligence to do against monsters. But yeah, I was almost going to pick Toll the Dead.
I'm surprised you didn't.
I decided, I was going to be Toll the Dead, and Mind Sliver is actually what it was going to be. And that is my first one, Mind Sliver. Mind Sliver is really good.
I love it so much.
It's basically the wizard's version of Vicious Mockery. It's poke damage. It's okay poke damage. It's an intelligence save. Hello. And you subtract a d4 from the next save throw of the target. And I'm pretty sure that Vicious Mockery is the same, except it is a... What is it? Is it a wisdom or charisma save or something? And you subtract a d4 from their next attack roll, I think. For this one, for Mind Slaver, I think it's better because it subtracts a d4 from their save throw, which I think is much more important. And the second one is the one, I was always going to take Mind Slaver because I love it. The second one, it was between Toll the Dead and Eldritch Blast. And then I read through the master spell list, and I saw Mage Hand.
Oh, here we go.
Did you know that? Did you know I was going to pick Mage Hand?
I had a feeling Mage Hand was going to come up in this conversation today.
It has to! It's one of the best cantrips in the game!
I never use it.
What do you mean, Well, maybe you should. And it gives you the ability to, as a bonus action, interact with the environment and the battlefield. It has so much versatility in what it can do. And it receives... What other spell receives as many buffs from feats as Mage Hand does? None of them. Mage Hand receives buffs from Telekinetic and Mage Hand Legerdemain in the Arcane Trickster.
If you had a Mage Hand, what would you use with it?
Literally everything. What would I not use with it is a better question. You know, right now in the Conquest campaign, how we're about to fight that monster, and there's a bunch of stuff like levers and whatnot around the battlefield.
Don't tell me you're just gonna pull all the levers.
I can't because I'm a barbarian, but if I could, I would be... Because what those are is you bring the monster over to that area and you pull the lever and it'll drop something on them, basically. Or it'll do something to them. Or it'll be like a pitfall or something. If you can do that from a distance, that is so safe. That is so useful. You can pick up items that are less, 10 pounds or less. And, I mean... With Telekinetic, it's invisible. And with Mage Hand Legerdemain, You can pick locks with it, and it's invisible. And there's other things that they do too. And I think there might be one other feature that also buffs it that's similar to telekinetic. But it just gets buffs from feats, and I think that's so interesting. My honorable mentions are Ray of Frost, Thorn Whip, Vicious Mockery, Sword Burst, Spare the Dying, Shillelagh, Toll the Dead, and Eldritch Blast. Cantrips are really good.
I really like Vicious Mockery because it just reminds me of like playing an online video game and getting trolled.
Oh yeah. Get shit on. Yeah.
Yeah, L plus ratio.
L, loser. Your mom.
Oh geez.
That's how my character would do it.
I hate that so much.
Yeah, and now I need to play a bard. Now I need to play a bard so I can say your mom to someone and have them like have a breakdown and miss their attack roll.
What about roleplay story spells?
That's us.
Yeah, that's us.
That's me. That's us.
Yeah.
I'm using. That's me when I say your mom to you.
Every time I have a valid argument, your mom. I'm like, okay, well, that ends that.
Now moving on to our favorite spells for roleplay. This is fun. I have my 2 with no honorable mentions. I have cut down on my honorable mentions after this point. You're welcome.
Was it because it was 6 a.m. or because you don't like roleplay?
Both. Next question.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah.
We're 2 halves of a whole
Yes.
idiot because
I love that saying.
I love the narrative. Me too. I love the narrative roleplay aspect of D&D, and you just like fighting
I
things.
like fighting things as good as possible. Yeah. Yeah, so you say your favorites.
Oh, where do I begin with my love for thaumaturgy?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's so good. My main D&D character I'm playing right now, he can't really talk very loud. So for moments where he needs to grab attention of people or to make his point clear, he uses thaumaturgy to boost his voice, which just adds a lot to the character.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do so much stuff with thaumaturgy. Like, if, say, you want to play a prank on someone and you're invisible, you can use thaumaturgy to bust up all the windows open in a tavern or whatever.
Yeah.
You can do so much with thaumaturgy, and it's like, options are limitless. Like, I tried to get guards distracted once to examine something, which logically I should have just, asked the guards about the issue.
Yeah.
But I went the hard way.
Yeah.
I used thaumaturgy to make someone scream down the street.
Mm-hmm.
So the guards can move, and I can go and examine something.
Yeah. It has a lot of applications for like fun little tricksy things.
Oh yeah, it's really good. Another thing is Druidcraft.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I always forget about Druidcraft, but it is so fun.
It's just a nice spell. It's like the little things that can come from Druidcraft, like creating flowers and stuff.
Yeah.
A thing I used with it recently was I created lavender and chamomile to make a tea for a nervous party member to help calm her down.
Mm-hmm.
Just like little things like that. It doesn't have to have an effect. It's just something for the narrative purposes and building relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those are very, like, I want to say those spells are, like, aesthetic spells. They're so nice.
Yeah.
They fit, like, when they fit on a character, they fit so well.
Definitely.
My spells, it's like, I didn't, okay. Let me just tell you what I picked. I picked Rope Trick
Okay.
and Counterspell.
Okay.
I love them for role playing. They are so either funny or fun. And some people don't even know that the Rope Trick spell exists. So when you use it and you tell them what you're doing, they get very excited. Rope Trick is you open like a little portal to a secret, undetectable pocket dimension. And you can have this pocket dimension like look however you want. It can be real funny. You can make it look like a messy bedroom. This pocket dimension has, not only is it actually functional and it's such a good spell, you can do so much with bringing people into your pocket dimension. Because you can bring people into it, you can also just store stuff there. I've thought of having like Storage Wars where they do bidding.
Oh yeah, I love Storage Wars, yes.
I've thought of having like a Rope Trick that is just like the Storage Wars hallway. And it's just a bunch of different storage things and my character doesn't know what's in the storage containers.
Funny.
Because they forgot. Because they have so much stuff.
I love that so much.
Right? It's funny. And it can be like really character personal stuff.
Oh yeah.
Counterspell. My reasoning for Counterspell is I love any spell that gives an opportunity for a big badass moment And nothing gets that hype more than counterspelling the big bad evil guy's big spell right back at them.
And then they counterspell that.
And then they can't. Exactly. It's so fun to use counterspell in a game. You can counterspell something and say a funny quip. You can counterspell something and describe how you do it. And it can just be, I love counterspell in basically any situation. It is fun. And it's also good.
You counterspell someone's thaumaturgy.
Funny. Counterspell, you can counterspell so many things. And it can have so many outcomes, and it's hilarious. But yeah, those are my options. I could have honorable mentions, but I'm sparing everyone.
You just didn't want to do that. Don't lie.
Yeah.
I know you.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think our final one for spells today is homebrew.
Yes. Homebrew spells. You can start.
Okay. So, I am playing...
Because I want to know what yours is.
I am playing a College of Creation Bard soon. And I picked this spell. It's a cantrip, I believe. Or it's a first level spell. It's one of those two. It's called Fresh Paint.
Oh my gosh. I do know this one.
It's pretty useless. It's just painting. And you may be wondering, why not just get a painter's kit? And for that, I'll say, that's boring.
I don't want to.
Yeah, that's boring. And there's so much you can do with just having, I want to write a message, but I don't have a quill with me, but I do have my finger. I'm going to write a message using my paint. And so I had an idea for something in the campaign. Imagine with me, Dylan. You're in a Lich's lair, and you and your party are being stealthy. You create an anvil, and underneath the anvil, you write a message. And then you tie up the anvil with the 50 feet of rope everyone gets. You tell the Lich, hey, look at the ceiling. Gullible's right on the ceiling, look up. It's written there. The Lich looks up, because obviously the Lich would do that, logically.
Yeah.
Anvil falls, and it says, haha, made you look at the bottom. It's dumb, and I love it. It's perfect for something I want to do. It's like Looney Tunes style attacks.
Yeah, it gives very Acme.
It's just such a dumb little spell that's ultimately useless because the paint doesn't even stay long. And also, if you messed up a scratch on your dorm wall and you're like, oh no, my landlord's coming soon, you can easily paint it over really quickly. And it'll be gone in an hour when the landlord leaves. It's so easy, so simple. 10 out of 10. I love it. And I'm not removing it for silvery barbs.
Well, silver barbs is better, but I'm not going to get into it. Do you have another one, or is that it?
I just chose the one, yeah, because I really like fresh paint.
Well, I'm going to balance it out because I have 3.
Okay, now, sometimes I did say 1 to 2.
Well, you did 1, so I'm picking up the one that you missed.
I said 1 to 2. 1 to 2 is in the 1 to 2 category.
1 to 2 means do 2.
1 to 2 means 1 to 2.
No, 1 to 2 means you do 2.
1 to 2 means Dylan, don't go overboard.
1 to 2 means Dylan does 3. Thank you.
Okay.
My spell, firstly, is the first one's a 9th level spell. Free soup.
Love it.
It is so fucking powerful. There are so many implications you can do with this spell. It creates a bowl of above average soup, which disappears after being consumed.
Most soup does.
I shouldn't have to explain why this spell is amazing. And clearly, like, out of all the 9th level spell options, like Wish and, all that stuff, clearly it's, like, just optimal to have in basically every scenario. And it's like a Swiss Army knife spell.
And you let me have it.
It's so good. Yeah.
And it's so great.
Of course. Then I'm gonna plug my own.
Here we go.
The other 2 spells are both from my own subclass. My wizard subclass. First one is Apport. I love Apport. It is so cute. I love the name. And you get to transport an object that is within 60 feet of you to another space that is within 60 feet of you. So, if it's attached to a creature, they have to make a dex save, and if they fail, they have it taken, and are unable to tell who cast the spell or who took it. It's neat, it's fun little utility, and it's great for disarming enemies by snapping your fingers and having them fail a dex save. I mean, if they're bad at dex. I mean, usually if they're holding a weapon, they're pretty good at dex, but, you know, if they fail it...
Didn't we just say earlier dex is a really hard saving throw?
Yeah, but it's also good for balancing because you shouldn't be able to easily, disarm an enemy by snapping your fingers every round. Yeah. But yeah, dex save, pretty balanced. I like it. It's fun, and it's good for transporting items quickly that you need. It's a bonus action. And then there's that was first level spell. Fourth level spell is, or is it fifth? It's fifth level spell, is Endless Whirl. You create a tornado centered on you, damaging creatures who end their turn in the area and forcing them to make a strength save or be moved in the wind wherever the caster chooses. And you're also able to direct objects and gaseous substances around the wind as well, and you can move them into containers. It deals partial slashing, partial wind damage. They have to, if they end their turn in it, they make a dex save, and on a successful save, they take half as much damage. Yeah. Damage, it's kind of like area control. It affects everyone except you, and it prevents any projectiles from flying in. It disrupts them, and you also can't shoot out of it any like physical projectiles like an arrow or a bullet. I think that is mostly it. I like it. Damage, area control, fun.
And I think that is time for our Am I the Big Bad Evil Guy?
Yeah. AITBBEG, as it's colloquially known as. Let's see what submission we have today. Am I the Big Bad Evil Guy? I, 23 male, have a ghost companion, male unknown age, that I am soulbound to. Recently, the ghost has shown interest in learning martial moves. I am fine with the ghost wanting to further his skill set. The issue lies with his health. Since we're soulbound, if one of us perishes in battle, the other one goes as well. The ghost is a small creature, so it normally is out of harm's way, which is good, because it can only handle one hit. Yikes. Is it wrong for me to avoid teaching him martial moves in favor of protecting both him and I? Further context, he knows spells and casts them away from enemy range. This sounds like a father-son dynamic. This is what it sounds like to me. Does it sound like that to you? Sounds very like for their own protection.
It sounds like a ghost and a person soulbound.
To me, it sounds a bit like a father-son dynamic, like one watching after the other. What do you think?
Like, it's partially just selfishness, because it's like, you don't want to teach someone something because it'll affect you in the end. Because they're soulbound, they're connected.
Yeah, but also, it's not just them. I mean, the little ghost will also can apparently only take one hit. So it's really in his favor to not be in the front. I mean, I suppose this person also wants to keep themselves safe for the same reason. Because they don't want the little ghost guy to die if they die. So, I mean, it kind of just goes both ways.
First of all, why is there a ghost? What's going on over there?
Yeah. What's happening?
Not a lot of context. Maybe it's like a guilt type of thing. Maybe because like they couldn't protect. Maybe it was like they knew the ghost before they were a ghost, and now they feel guilty.
Yeah. Now they like really want to protect them.
It's tough though, because you're not really the big bad evil guy, but also you like hear the ghost out.
Yeah.
It's like self-preservation.
I mean, if it is like I said, like father-son and like that type of dynamic. If it is like father-son dynamic, like I thought I might be, then maybe this person knows better than the ghost. You know, like the ghost, because sometimes it's like parenting. Maybe it's like, well, the kid really wants to do this thing, but it's not safe, or they don't think it fully through, and they could like get themselves into some trouble. So, I mean, if it keeps the little ghost guy safe.
I was gonna say humor the idea, but even humoring the idea seems kind of cruel if you're not gonna let them do it.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe on the side, be like, okay, we can do this, we can teach you this, but I don't want you to use it unless you really have to. If they want to learn, they want to learn. It's not right to not let someone learn something. Even if they're a ghost with
it could
be knocked down with a stiff wind.
Yeah. If it can be knocked down with an unarmed strike, 4 damage.
If they can not be knocked down by tripping on the stairs.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess maybe treat it like a sort of last resort thing. And they can do it on the side. Maybe Ghost can do it on the side for fun. But only really use it when they absolutely need to. And maybe not as their first option.
Or maybe like a when you're older type of deal. Even though that might be cruel, because I don't know if ghosts grow older. Now that I'm saying this out loud.
Yeah, I would say use it as like maybe get someone to teach them. And have it only be like a last resort type of thing.
Like put them in a full...
Not a first
full
option.
padded suit. A hockey helmet.
Yeah.
The whole shebang.
Yeah. Just like really pad them up and then have them practice. And only ever use it if they absolutely need to.
So I don't think...
Thanks, Milo.
Thanks, Milo, for your input. What does Milo think?
Milo hates the idea. Doesn't want Ghost to die.
Okay. I don't think they're the big bad evil guy.
I don't either. You are not the big bad evil guy. The jury has spoken.
We are not the jury. We are 2 people at a water cooler. Ignoring work.
We are 2 people at a water cooler. Procrastinating doing our work. We are punching out. And we need to go back and do our real work now. So we're punching out. That's Julie.
That's Dylan.
And this was Wizards at Work. And we gotta go back to our desks. Bye.
This job sucks.
It does. See ya.